Welcome back to the Live Unrestricted podcast. Thank you so much for being here. We have a really good episode for you today. Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina Magna, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in. So one of the things that I know can be really difficult when you are working on creating change, and this could be in any area of your life, but of course, this is a podcast that's dedicated to helping you heal your relationship with food, your body, and with yourself. And what can be difficult is that we get addicted to our past. We get addicted to our past beliefs, right? So if you're someone who experiences a lot of negative self-talk, right? You're really mean to yourself. You beat yourself up. You feel a lot of guilt, a lot of shame. Then we get addicted to thinking that way. And I know that there's been times where I'll actually talk to some of my clients and we work on reframing beliefs and we work on creating more positive self-talk. And there is a massive sense of discomfort that comes from being kind to yourself, from speaking to yourself in a positive, in a compassionate way. And that's because we get addicted to who we know that we are, or who we think that we are, should I say. We get addicted to certain feelings and emotions, right? That's how we get addicted to stress and overwhelm and loneliness or sadness or boredom or being the victim, because it's what we are known to. That's what we're familiar with. And I know for me, there's times in my business where I'm like, go, go, go. I'm working on a project and it's just always a stressful time for me. And even in the past couple of months, I made the decision as I was going into a busy period that I was going to be intentional about not falling into my addictive nature of stress and overwhelm. I really went into it thinking, how can I go into this busy period with a state of calm, with a sense of fun, with a sense of ease? And so that was really my intention, is being able to experiment going through a busy period, but not falling into the stress and overwhelm. And what was super interesting is this was really an experiment for me. What was really interesting is that I noticed that even on days where I didn't need to work at night, I didn't need to work on the weekend, I didn't need to feel overwhelmed and stressed, my body would try to get me back in that state, right? It would try to get me back into those emotions, into those thoughts that I was so used to thinking. And I had to be very intentional about choosing a different path, about deciding we're not doing that anymore. I'm not thinking that way. I'm not feeling that way. I'm not going to give into behaviors, overworking, overstressing, not fully living my life during a busy time. I'm not going to give in to those behaviors because I know that that's what my ego wants. I know that that's what the past version of me would do, but I don't want to be that past version of me. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is it has a lot to do with the conversation that you're going to hear in this episode. I'm bringing to you one of the amazing clients that I got to work with. And the reason why this is such a great conversation is that Joyce is someone who had been struggling with her relationship with food and her body since her 30s. She joined Food Freedom Academy when she was 72. And it would be so easy to think, I am so far gone. There's no way for me to change. What's the point, right? I'm almost done. There's no point in even trying to change. And she came into this space of transformation as a blank slate. There wasn't this internal mind drama of, I can't do this. This is not possible for me. I'm too set in my ways. She really approached this process of becoming an intuitive eater and rewiring her old diet mindsets and her old emotions and her old behaviors from a place of, I'm leaving that person behind. And even when I notice some of those old thoughts, those old emotions and behaviors wanting to creep back in, I am no longer going to give that my attention and my energy. And that was a choice that she had to make. You have to choose to make a change because you fall back into your negative programming. It's just human nature, right? You are programmed to look for threats. You are programmed to look for the negative. You are programmed to feel stressed about the future or anxious about the past. That is how we are wired, and we fall into that pretty naturally. And I have my own experience of this because I'll see that on Sunday nights, I will just fall into kind of stress for the week ahead. And when I notice that happening, I'll pause and I'll ask, like, why am I feeling this way? I'm excited about the week that's coming up. Like, if I just change my perspective, I feel good about the week ahead. But in my body, the way that I'm programmed is to look at the week ahead, the Sunday scaries with these negative emotions. And it would have been so easy for Joyce to fall back into her old programming that she had been living with for 70 plus years. And she made the choice to believe that more was possible. And she made the choice to set aside that voice in her head that was trying to hold her back and to believe in her intuition. And you'll hear us talk about intuition versus your ego. And I don't want to give much more away. So if you're someone who really wants to create a different future, right? You are at this awkward stage where you know that you don't want to be where you are for the rest of your life. You know that you deserve more, that you're on this earth for a reason, and that reason is not being obsessed with food and your body for the rest of your days. And you know that there is another way, but you have fear, right? You're kind of on that fence where you haven't taken that step forward and you don't know what that's even going to look like. I love bringing stories to you of people who have just recently gone through the process and are able to share that experience with you so that you know what it's going to look like on the other side of that fence. It's not a mystery. It's not the unknown. It's not scary. It's all laid out for you. So without further ado, I'm so honored to bring to you my conversation with Joyce.
Well, my name is Joyce, and my struggle with what I considered a problem with weight started back in my 30s when after I had my second baby. And it was funny looking back on it because I started thinking about it. I'm like, I really wasn't even overweight then. I just had a baby. My body was changing. I was getting older, but the diet industry made me believe or influenced me to believe that I was overweight. And then you have the doctors telling you that you don't fit into the BMI scale, and they tell you you need to lose weight. And so you buy into all the things that the diet culture teaches you. So that started my journey, and that was 40 years ago. And so what would happen I would lose the weight, but then I would gain it back, and then I would gain back more with it. So over, the 40-year decade, I ended up being 50 pounds heavier than when I started. And I started really having what I call some health issues. I was told I had fatty liver. And that's when I said, well, I really need to do something different. This is not working, and I need to try something different. And that's when I found intuitive eating.
Wow. So you said, and you mentioned that this started in your 30s 40 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the big things that I often hear is this belief that I'm just going to be like this forever, right? I've been
Hmm.
struggling with this for way too long, and there's no going back now. It's kind of set in stone. And you mentioned that you were gaining and losing the same weight over and over again. So, what are some of the different things that you had done over the years in the hopes? Because that's what diet culture promises you, right? You're going to lose
Yeah,
weight
yeah,
and then you're going to keep it off, and all of your problems are going
right.
to go away. So, what were some of those things that you had tried?
Well, I tried Atkins, which was the old keto diet, and that just I couldn't stomach that. It was just terrible. And so I did Weight Watchers like all those years, you know, and they really kept me hooked because they would come up with new programs and new ways, and then they had you believing, well, this time it's going to work. And so I never gave up, which is to my credit.
Hmm.
I never gave up and kept trying, and just took. I just glad that the culture's out there now teaching what intuitive eating is, teaching that that's not the way to go.
Yeah. And when you were doing Atkins and, a lifelong Weight Watchers member, how did you feel? How would you describe what your relationship with food and your body was like?
Well, food was not anything that I enjoyed. Food is what I used to control my weight. And I really just missed out on enjoying eating because I was always worried about what I was going to eat, how much I was going to eat. And I just, would feel guilty if I ate something that wasn't on plan. So it really set me up for not experiencing having a good food experience.
Mm. And what was that like to constantly be thinking about food, and not in a way where it's like something that you enjoy and that brings you happiness, but
Hmm.
something that creates a lot of negative emotions? Did that create a ripple consequence on how you felt about yourself or your relationships and the people around you?
Oh, definitely. It definitely, really, that's when my body esteem started going down, because I'm thinking, well, there's something wrong with me. If I can't lose this weight and I can't keep it off, then it has to be something wrong with me. I'm doing something wrong. And then I thought I was wrong. And then it was poor, not only poor self image as far as body, it was, low self esteem.
Yeah. And you probably had this belief that I just haven't found that right diet yet. I haven't found the right solution. There's probably a lot of self-blame into, and you mentioned I'm the one who must be doing something wrong.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Yeah.
Did you ever struggle with feeling out of control around food, binge eating, emotional eating?
No, I never really had the issue with the binge eating. That was not a problem for me. But you can only use willpower for so long, and then you lose it, and then you eat more than you know you should be eating according to the diet plan, and then you feel guilty, and it's just a vicious cycle.
Hmm.
It becomes a vicious cycle. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that when you got that diagnosis of fatty liver, you realized that something needed to change. How long
Right.
ago was that? Because I remember when you first joined Food Freedom Academy, there was a lot of doubt and some resistance, and you were also doing another program, and you thought, how is this going to be different? And do I really need something else? So, how long before joining Food Freedom Academy did you change the direction in the things that you were doing and how you were approaching your relationship with food and your body?
It started about 3 years ago is when I first I found intuitive eating, but it was intuitive eating, but it was still a diet. And I didn't realize that I was still following diet rules. And I didn't know that I was still trying to control what I was eating. I was just trying in a different way, stop when you're hungry, eat when you're hungry, stop when you're at enough. And, but really didn't learn all the diet rules that I had programmed into my head at that time. And so it was when I found your program, and that was one of your probably one of your best modules is learning, that diet mindset and all the rules you've imposed on yourself. I just didn't realize what I was doing.
Hmm. And that's a really common experience, right? Is you'll see intuitive eating being used as, because now that's the new thing, right? People are
Mhm.
catching on that dieting doesn't work, and you're seeing some coaches, some dietitians out there who are using it as a way to spin their own messaging, use this as a way to lose weight, use this
Right.
as a way to control your body. And like that's the antithesis of intuitive eating. And of course, I always say, every single one of you, all of my members inside Food Freedom Academy, you have full body autonomy to do what you want with your body. And I will never be one to say, you can't lose weight and you can't want to lose weight. And oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, weight loss is a byproduct of intuitive eating, but it can never be the goal, because when it's the goal, you're going back to your old paradigms of, then I need to control my food. I need to restrict my food in order to control my body. And did you realize, because you were part of another program before joining, did you realize when you were doing that program that there was still some dieting mindsets that were holding you back and keeping you stuck?
No, I didn't. It wasn't, I didn't realize them. I didn't realize I was following diet rules. I was just, paying attention to what I was eating, but in the background was running. My program was running, which told me, well, you can't eat this, eat that, you're going to gain weight. So I still had that programming running in the background. Just didn't realize it was running.
Yeah. And how was that programming subconsciously affecting you?
Well, it did. It robbed me of a lot of joy. To be honest, it robbed me of a lot of joy and robbed me of the joy of eating, and it robbed me of the joy of really enjoying life, thinking that I had to be a certain way. I had to fix myself, in order to be worthy. And I think that's probably one of the most valuable things I learned from you was, that I didn't need to be fixed and to get in touch with who I am, my true self. And you taught that through mindset, you know, self-talk, reframing how you think about yourself. And
Mhm.
that was all just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I even talk about it on our first week together. Every time I start with a new group, is how to approach self-improvement and how to approach a goal without this attachment, without this need to achieve it in order to feel good about yourself. Because
Hmm.
if you approach a space of transformation, and this goes for me as well, I've invested so much into my own personal growth. If you approach it from a place of, I am broken, I need to be fixed, I need someone to fix me, then every step of the way, you're going to continue to feel broken and continue to feel unwhole. And so that's such an important piece, because we work so much, on self love and self acceptance. And it's so interesting because the more you can cultivate that self love, as you've seen, the faster your transformation is going to be. And you, I remember, did a lot of back and forth, right? I'm going to join. No, I'm not going to
Yeah.
join. This is the right time. It's not the right time. So, what was it that made you finally decide, you know what? I'm going to jump in and this is the right program for me? And maybe you didn't even know 100% if this was going to be the right program for you.
Yeah, that was very clear to me because I had decided that I wasn't going to join, and then I won the free bingo call. And when I talked to you during that call, I'm like, yeah, she can help me. That's when I realized it.
And why did you feel that way?
Well, you helped me see some of my blocks. You took me to a deeper level to be able to see my truths. It was something that I had never experienced from anybody else that's coached me. And
Mm,
it was really, really awesome.
yeah. Yeah, if you're not willing to go deep, if you're not willing to uncover some things that have probably been hidden from you in your subconscious for years or decades, multiple decades,
Yeah.
then I'm probably not going to be your girl because I can't be surface level. Even when I go to parties and I meet someone new, I always warn Luke, I'm like, I might be like talking about your friend's childhood by the time you walk into this conversation. And what was it that you were hoping to achieve that was different when you joined Food Freedom Academy? What were you hoping to get out of it?
Well, it was very intriguing to think that I could actually have freedom from food, that I could free myself from trying to fix myself all the time, trying to have my head just babble all the time about, wow, girl, you need to do this, you need to do that.
Mm.
Instead of just relaxing into the process of trusting my body and trusting myself, you know. And that's something that I had never really learned to do, you know, to trust myself, to trust the process, to to know that everything I needed for myself was inside myself.
hmm And what I love so much about your story is that, if I'm correct, you're 72, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
73 Thursday.
Amazing. Almost your birthday. And what I loved so much in the way that you showed up for the calls and you showed up to this space of transformation and this process as a whole is that you went into it as if you were a blank slate, right? It's so easy when you've been living the same way for so long. You know, when
Mhm.
I speak to women who are in their 40s and who already are thinking they're set in stone, already are
Mhm.
thinking this is how I'm always going to be, right? I've been like this for 40 years. So how is this ever supposed to change? And then there's on top of that, there's the false information that gets, pushed onto people of your entire brain is fixed by the time you're 30 and you can't change who you are and change is hard. And I'm not saying change is easy, but
Mhm.
you approached it with such a fresh mindset that was so inspiring of like this complete faith and belief that if you just showed up with an open mind and you were willing to be coachable and you were willing to take directive, then change would be possible. And
Mhm.
from your point of view, I've never really asked you this, but like, how did you do that? How did you put aside all of the typical limiting beliefs that could very easily come up, the negative self-talk that may or may not have popped up for you of who are you to even think that this is possible? You've been like this for so long. Did you even experience any of that?
Yeah, my intuition just told me that there was more. There's more to learn, more to grow, and I was just open to. I've just had amazing personal growth that, and once you've had it, like, man, you want to not stop growing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you said that it was my intuition. And we talked about this on many of our calls together, this concept that there's going to be two parts of you. There's going to be your ego, which is there
Hmm.
to keep you in your comfort zone. Your ego comes from a place of survival, from a place of fear, right? Let's keep doing what we've already done. Let's keep doing what we know, what is familiar. And most of the time, especially if you get to a point in your life where you're not happy, what's familiar is not necessarily serving you. It's just
Hmm.
what you've done so many times before that you now know how to easily do it with your eyes closed in your sleep. You know how to be
Hmm.
mean to yourself. You know how to self-sabotage. You know how to keep repeating the same destructive patterns so well you don't have to make an effort. And then there's going to be that other side of you, which most people have a really hard time connecting to because if you're living from a place of fear and you give your ego so much attention, then your ego is going to be like this overbearing, loud voice. And then your intuition, which is your higher self, that part of you that sees just how much potential you have, that comes from a place of love and of growth and unlimited possibilities, that voice is a lot softer. It's a lot quieter. And when you've got your ego that's like yelling in your ear, and then you've got your soft intuition that's just kind of a whisper, most people actually think it could be dangerous to listen to that intuition, because then you're putting yourself in a position where you're doing something that you've never done before. You're stepping into the unknown. You're stepping into growth, which can feel scary. And when you heard that soft whisper of your intuition, of your higher self saying, no, there is more and anything is possible, did you feel any fear listening to that voice and following it?
I had to quiet that ego voice. Yeah, I had to quiet it, and I had to redirect it and say, no, you know, this isn't, reframing my thoughts, and reframing how I thought about myself came from a different path, if that makes sense. I was just on a new path.
Mm.
I just knew that I liked that path so much better, and I just wanted to stay there, that I wasn't willing to go back to the old path because
Yeah.
it didn't feel good. It wasn't good. It didn't feel good. And the other one feels so amazing. It's like, why would I not want to be on that path?
Yeah. I love that, of like that old version of me, the one who you knew very well, the one that you were very used to, that was familiar. It didn't feel good. And
Hmm.
when I always say this to you guys is like, once you open your eyes to this, once you learn that you have like all the control in the world to change the way that you think, the way that you feel, and the way that you behave, there's no going back. It's like when you pass a level at a video game. Now I'm going to pretend that I know anything about video games, which I don't, but Luke is a big gamer. But what I know about video games is that you start at level 1, and when you finally pass that level and you go to level 2 and level 3, and you can't go back to level 1, right?
Right.
You stay up at that level and you keep going. And that's really the way that I see personal growth, is the second that you see just how much better your life can be, you truly can't go back. And for anyone who is at that level 1 and they've been comfortable at that level 1 for so long, and that level 1 is, repeating the same patterns and not believing in themselves and thinking that I need to lose weight to be happy and dieting is the only way. And they want to go up to that level 2, right? They know that there's more that's available for them. What would you say as someone who really managed to have this belief that something else was possible, even if you had no indication of it? What advice would you give to those people?
Well, first of all, listen to your intuition and give it a opportunity to show you how much better it can be. Just listen and search out for the answers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't think anyone has ever said, God, I wish I hadn't listened to my gut.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes what we think is intuition, right? Like, let's say someone's talking about keto, for example, and there's something inside of you that's saying like, oh, I really should try it. A really good way to know the difference between true intuition and your ego that comes from a place of fear is when you're, let's say, seeing the next diet that sounds exciting for you. Is it coming from a place of, this is finally going to fix me, right? A place of fear and stress and anxiety, of impatience, right? Like, I've tried so many things, so hopefully this is going to be the next one. Or when you're coming from your intuition, it feels expansive. It feels, I was going to say natural, but I don't even know if natural is the word, because sometimes your intuition, you're like, whoa, that feels scary. So it's not necessarily natural, because sometimes it feels big and you're like, there's all this potential and opportunity available for me. But what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned along the way inside the program that you weren't expecting to learn?
With the big one was, that I didn't need to fix myself. That was the biggie. And the other one was be open to trust in the process and giving yourself the opportunity to try something different and be willing to learn, because there's so much out there. There's so much out there to make our lives better. And your program was just, to me, it was magical because it was just set up in a way that you gave me the foundation of mindset. And, I used the analogy of a house, and to have a good, strong, beautiful house, you need to have a good foundation. And you taught me, you didn't give it to me, but you presented it to me, which is what I love about you. Is you let us learn on our own. Wherever we're at, that's what we're going to learn from the program.
Mm-hmm.
And you showed me that mindset really is the foundation for building a beautiful life. And once you start reframing your mind and thinking from which I've talked to you before, from abundance mindset, but come from intuition, it does come from love, then it changes everything. It changes how you think. It changes how you feel about yourself. It changes how you experience emotions. It changes how you experience life. And everything is just like, whoa, the fireworks are up in the sky and they're beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I find really interesting too is, if someone gets me going on the topic of mindset, on the topic of learning how powerful your brain is when you actually know how to use it, I will talk for hours. And there's some times where I'm at get-togethers and Luke wants to leave soon, and here's someone start asking me about my job, and he's like, she will go on for hours if you don't stop her. But what's interesting is that you had really been already on a personal growth and development path, right? I wasn't the first person that you came across, but what was different about, maybe you were listening to podcasts or you were reading the books and you were following people on social media, and what you learned inside of the program? Why do you think that actually being in an environment where you could implement it, or maybe you could talk to someone, like what was it that was different about consuming knowledge and what we did inside the academy?
But it was laid out in a way that made a lot of sense to me. It was organized, whereas I'd learned a piece here, a piece there, a piece there. But yours was just kind of like this nice little gift wrapped up in this beautiful little bow, and I just got it. It was just all, I don't know if it was just the right timing, but I do believe that your program, how it's laid out, that you build upon what you need to learn, start with that mindset, and you build upon it. It's not like, well, let's do this and let's do that and let's do this. It's like, let's master this, and then you can master that.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause that's, I am also a personal development junkie, but I love learning, I love having a reel that pops up on my social media and I get this epiphany. And what's super meta is that last week there was a reel that popped up on my Instagram about epiphanies that we get from reels that pop up on our Instagram. And I got an epiphany from this reel, and it was talking about how we can get addicted to breakthroughs. We can get addicted to seeing something that we're like, whoa, I never thought of it that way. That makes so much sense. And it gives us this false sense of change. it gives us this false sense of moving forward. And I do this with podcasts as well, right? You listen to a podcast, it makes so much sense. And sure, you can internalize and you can hold on to certain concepts and certain shifts in the way of seeing things, but to actually go from step 1 and then step 2 and step 3 and having it all laid out of how you can create actionable change and truly implement it into your life, 2 completely different things. And it requires taking action, right? It's not like if you could read all of the books and listen into all the podcasts and follow social media about how to swim, and you can know all of the knowledge, the technique of how to swim, but if you don't get in the water, you're never going to learn to be a good swimmer. So that's something that I'm always really passionate about, is just like, yes, let's give you the mindset shifts. Let's give you the new perspectives, but let's just not stop there. Let's take action so that it goes from knowledge into integrated wisdom. And that's something that I really saw in you. And what would you say are the biggest changes and shifts that you've made during this journey?
Enjoying life and enjoying food. Oh, it's so awesome to eat and to actually enjoy the food. It's like something I never really experienced before. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And I don't know, it's just having the headspace to, you're not always busy trying to control everything. And so then you're able to just sit back and enjoy what's coming to you. So.
I remember when you first had a family get together, and I remember you coming on one of the calls and saying it was such a massive win because here I was surrounded by my family and my grandkids, and I actually was present and I was able to be around food and enjoy the foods that I want, but food wasn't the central focus of everything.
Right.
And how long had it been since you were able to fully be present in that way?
Well, after joining your program, so that was back in February. So yeah, just very recent.
Yeah. And now, I mean, we're, few months later, where are you now in terms of how you feel, how you think, your relationship with food, with exercise? Because that was something that we talked about as well, and with your body.
Yeah, I just approach everything from a whole new perspective. It's like, and it's basically, I think I told you in one of our Sunday surveys that I thought I was just much too serious. And I can see now that, I was too serious because I was always trying to fix myself and always trying to control everything. And that makes you pretty serious. And so now that I don't have to do that, I just sit back and I'm kind of enjoying the ride. And I'm going where I want to go. And I'm seeing what I want to see. And I'm experiencing what I want to experience. And it's just beautiful.
It makes me so happy to see that, like, no matter what age you're at, it's possible for you to create a new future. It's possible for you to enjoy the rest of your time on this earth, and it's never too late to start. And for anyone who might have this belief that it's too late, I'm too set in my ways, there's no way I could ever change, right? You have no idea, Joyce. You have no idea, Sabrina, like how hard this is going to be for me. And someone who really just wants to be able to put all of their issues with food, with their bodies, and, with themselves behind once and for all. What advice would you have to give from your perspective?
Just try. Just believe. Let's go with, let's believe you can do it, because you can. That would be the big one. It's like, yes, I did believe that my tuition told me that there was more, and I believed my tuition, and I believed that I could do it. And I did take those actions. I didn't just, try to say, I'm going to be happy now. I found ways to be happy. And the one example is the exercise, and you really helped me see this too, was instead of thinking of, oh, exercise, I don't want to do that, that's no fun, I've never liked to exercise. You showed me, well, how does it make you feel? And that changed everything, because I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, it makes me feel so good after I exercise. It makes me feel good physically. It makes me feel good mentally. It makes me feel good about myself. And so just because you're at a certain age, and it could be young, could be old, it could be middle age, there's always an opportunity to learn and grow.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love that. And I love what you said about just try. There's
Mm-hmm.
so many people who live in this really painful, I think the most painful place is on the fence, where
Mm-hmm.
you now know you don't want to be where you are, but you haven't taken the leap to get to the other side. And you're just sitting on the fence. And if we think about our literal fence, it's a very uncomfortable place to be. And I have been on the fence in so many situations. And that's where you're going to feel the most suffering, because you now know that there's more. And
Mm-hmm.
when you can come from a place of, this doesn't necessarily need to be a overnight success, but if I am willing to even just take one action, I love the idea of an experiment. I share that
Mm-hmm.
with you guys, is if it feels like a really big commitment to say, I'm changing my life, start by saying, I'm going to make it an experiment for the next 12 weeks, for the next 3 months, for the next 6 months, whatever is a time frame that feels good and doable for you, where I am going to go all in, right? I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
go all in, and I'm going to act as if I've already achieved the thing. I'm going to act as if my success is completely inevitable. Like, no matter what decision I make, I know that it will come with success on the other side. And
Mm-hmm.
when I do that, I can see it as like, okay, well, if I go all in on the next 3 months or the next year, and the worst thing that can happen is that it doesn't work, I'm already in that place. At least I'm
Right.
going to know that I have tried. And
Right.
the biggest regret that you'll ever have is not having tried something and it not going exactly as planned, but it's not even having tried and seeing all of the years or decades that you've missed because you didn't even believe in yourself to
Yeah.
take those
Right.
steps.
And the more you find that you can do it, the easier it becomes as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to show your little brain that, hey, I can do this.
Yeah. The one action you take, we think that confidence comes before you take the action, right? Once I
Mm-hmm.
feel confident that this is going to work,
Yeah.
then I'll take that next step. And then we get in this like information consumption overload, where
Mm-hmm.
if I can hear enough statistics and gather enough information, then I'm going to feel ready and confident that this is the right thing for me. And that's it's such a trap that we can fall into, because confidence comes from action. Confidence comes after action. You do
Mm-hmm.
one thing and you realize, ooh, not only did I survive, but I feel better and I achieved something. Then your confidence starts to grow from that place.
Yeah.
So
You feel good about doing it. Yes.
yeah, you feel great about, and you feel great about doing things that scare you. I don't know about
Mm-hmm.
you, but the things I'm the most proud of are those big leaps that I've taken, those
Right.
things that scared me, that pushed me out of my comfort zone. Like, I've never felt like this incredible sense of pride from doing something that I knew the outcome, right? Like, that
Yeah.
I knew would work, that I knew what would happen. It's typically from taking that step into the unknown and believing in myself so much that I knew that the future me would catch me. Joyce, you are incredible. Your story is incredible. And the words of wisdom that you have to share, I know is going to touch at least one person, at least. And I'm sure that no matter if you're just starting, if you're like me and you're in your 20s when you hit your rock bottom, or you're in your 60s, you're in your 70s, and you have this belief that, oh, well, everyone who's doing this is young. Everyone who's doing this is like just starting off. That's not true. And we have another member in this current cohort who's also in her 70s. And I love to see it, right? I love to see it because you can start and you can create a new future at any age. It's never too late. So any last words before we wrap this up?
Just highly encourage you to take that big step and to trust the process and trust yourself and go for it.
Thank you so much, Joyce. Thank you for being here, for sharing your story. We all appreciate you so much.
Thank you. It was wonderful talking with you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magnan Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.